Hello, hello. Welcome back to Mentally a Badass. Today we have a truly inspiring guest, Sandra Lee, a top rated resilience coach, mental health and addiction recovery advocate, and founder of Rockstar Resilience. With certifications in holistic wellness, trauma recovery, and life transformation, Sandra is also an award winning humanitarian and the creator of the life saving awareness campaign, the Light It Up Project. Through her work, she empowers individuals to rise above challenges, take control of their emotional and mental wellness, and make positive changes in their lives. Welcome to the podcast, Sandra.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, me too. Once we got on here, like your vibe was so good. I love when I get on these calls with guests, like just the energy. I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be a great conversation." And I'm just super excited to talk about, your past, with your wisdom and after looking over like your website or everything, do my research, I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. It truly is a badass." Like literally the definition.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into it. So, Sandra, you've been
Yes.
through so many challenges from childhood trauma to surviving a traumatic house fire. How did you find the strength to keep pushing forward during those darkest moments?
So, honestly, for me, at those darkest moments, I honestly push forward for other people. I push forward for my family, for my kids, for especially like in childhood for my parents. It was never like for me, but that's what kept me going. That's what, allowed me to not give up because I knew I needed to be there for other people.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, let's actually jump into. I want to hear the story behind the traumatic house fire.
All right. To kind of give a little backstory to that,
Hmm.
a few years before the house fire, I had started getting symptoms of PTSD from my nursing job. I started having nightmares and different things of cases that I was in as a nurse. And then, kind of right along that same time, I started to go through a divorce. I had like all these traumas. I was pretty much having a mental and emotional breakdown. And I ended up almost taking my life. And after almost taking my life, I was put on like a ton of medications. And it was really trauma related. I had never had psychiatric issues before. And so what they put me on was just overwhelming for my system. I was on like Adderall, Xanax. I was on like just I mean, it was like 10 medications. I couldn't even function. I was like in this haze. I felt like a zombie and like I had no memory. I was kind of just like kind of trying to get through the motions as best as I could. And I worked a case management job at this time and I left a space heater on in the basement. And when I left the house, on my way back to the house, my husband had called me. He was like, "Are you cooking?" I was like, "Am I cooking?" I was like, "I'm driving back from an appointment." He was like, "Oh, well, our nest is going off and there's smoke. There's all of the alarms are going off at all out of the house." And I was like, "We'll call the police." So I arrived at the house the same time he arrived at the same time the police arrived at the house. And all I could see was black smoke in my front bay window. And I could see smoke coming out of the chimney. And like at that point, I didn't know like what happened. I didn't know what caused it. But it was very traumatic. They busted like the fire department busted out the my big huge bay window, and I'll never forget. I was literally like I kind of was like in the fetal position on the ground. Like I was just in so much shock while they were like just busting out my window. My house was on fire and my dogs were in there. And so it was just pretty traumatic. And after that, like we lost pretty much everything. I have 3 adult children and I lost almost all of their childhood keepsakes, the things that mean the world to you. We were able to have some to save some, but I lost a lot of things. And so for the next like year and a half, we had a family of 4. My daughter didn't live with us, so it was 4 of us, and then we had 3 dogs, and we started out in a hotel, and then from the hotel we like rented a house, And then from that, we ended up in an Airbnb. And so for probably a year and a half, we just lived out of like bins. And while our house was being rebuilt, and that's actually when my addiction started. So that was crazy that you had started there because that was kind of like the beginning of like the end.
Yeah. So when you're saying the beginning of the end, so yeah, I definitely first want to go into all the trauma before we talk about all the amazing things that you're doing today. So
Yes.
everything that I got from, which is actually really interesting. So basically you're already going through, some challenges with PTSD, and like that makes it
Yeah.
just hard to function in life.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, naturally they say go to medication. I'm personally on medication. You said that you're on like 10 different medications. Is that like, okay, I don't know if you were exaggerating or if it was actually 10 different medications.
So honestly, when I'm like telling the story, 10 comes up, but it was honestly 6. I
Okay.
was even on like Neurontin, which is like
Oh.
a seizure medication, but that was for
Hmm.
panic attacks. So I was
Uh-huh.
on some pretty heavy medication.
Yeah, I'm only on
Yeah.
two. I mean, I'm
Okay.
on two right now. One for mood stabilizer and antidepressant. And I
Me
like,
too. I'm on 2 now as well, a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant.
what I love is when we can like just talk about medication, be like, what are you on? What are you on? Especially
Yes.
in this world with like the whole mental health stigma. Like the point is to this whole podcast is just talk about, what we're going through, what medication that
Right.
we're using, and it's just like the norm, and feeling comfortable because it
Yes.
does suck over these like last, I mean, not gonna say last decades, up until now, I mean, with mental health being, a taboo, which makes it like
Yeah.
very hard for people who are struggling like this. And then
Yeah.
when people, and then when people think that, oh, this person's on medication, they must be crazy. Like that's how people used to think. I mean, I'm sure there's
Right.
still people out there, unfortunately. I see comments of people at like just being mean and such. Like I've been trying
Yeah.
my best to block all those people because there's
Right.
just so much negativity, and it's like, just gonna go like a slightly off topic. Have you ever used like the Threads app?
Is that the one off of Instagram?
Yes.
I made an account, but I can't figure it out. So I guess I don't use it, but I know what it is.
Yeah. Oh my god, I love that. You're so cute.
Oh my god.
Okay, so yeah, so it's basically it's like Twitter. You just say things and such, and people have conversation. So when I first started, it was just like really cool, positive vibes. And when I went back on it, because I was like off it for like a year, when I saw a lot of potential, people were being so helpful. Actually, I found out about PodMatch through Threads. I was asking like
Oh.
questions like, oh, because I want to be a guest too, and then also like finding guests and such. People like, and one person was like, oh, try PodMatch, and I was like, oh, I never heard of that. So I looked it up, and I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. Like I've never seen something like this. So that's how I found PodMatch. And so anyway, so everything was like nice. I'm like, wow, this is like a safe place. Like everyone's so kind to each other. But then once I said that, guess what happened?
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. It just completely took a 360.
Oh my
And I'm
gosh.
like, what is good? Now I just actually don't want to go on the app anymore because like I'm like, is it me? Like with with the algorithm, like if you're, how you're interacting and such, but like I'm
Mhm.
trying my best to even interact with positive things. It's just unfortunately just been a lot more negative than positive when it was just
Yeah.
different like a month ago. And I'm like, what is going on here? But yeah, what was I getting with that? About how people see others with people who
Yes.
take medication and people with their opinions, and it's negative, and it's just people struggle already. They don't need to be hearing people bullying them
Right.
over that. So yeah, so that was the point that I was
Absolutely.
getting to. Bear with me. Sometimes I like lose my train of thought. That's the ADHD kicking in, and that's what
You're
editing.
fine.
That's what the editing comes in.
Gosh, I'm totally the same. Like,
Yeah,
what
I
were we
try.
talking about again?
Yeah, because I would go on like a whole like rant, and then I'm like, okay, I'm done my rant. I'm like, what was the original topic that I was like? I literally do that. I can go like full 1 minute, and I'm like, okay, I got my thoughts across. What are we talking about again?
You know what? A lot of people are like that, and a lot of people do that.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
Yep.
when you mentioned the whole like forgetting things and such, I like have a horrible memory myself, and I'm like, I don't know if it was like the meds or I just like, stress and
Yeah.
trauma. Like a lot can cause like
That
memory loss.
too.
And then me, I like low key freak out because there's Alzheimer's in my family. But
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing. But so yeah, so are you currently still like on those 6 meds right now?
No.
Mhm.
So actually got addicted to those
Oh, okay, yeah.
medications. Yeah, and so, when I started recovery, I was taken off of everything, and, now I'm just on a mood stabilizer and an antidepressant. And I do a whole bunch of, like, holistic wellness
Mhm.
techniques. I've done EMDR for,
Ooh.
trauma therapy, and I've also done cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
So it's a lot, that goes with those for me to be able to function with only 2 medications. It's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
No, absolutely. I mean, I have my own story as well where I have to have like a million things together in order to function in
Yeah.
society. So I have I have two questions for you, if you don't mind me asking. Which
Okay.
medication are you on? 'Cause I'm curious.
I'm on Lamictal and Pristiq. Lamictal is
Okay,
the mood stabilizer and Pristiq is the antidepressant.
I'm on Lamictal too.
Okay.
Twins.
Right? Well, there's so many similarities here. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy. Yesterday I had like so many similarities with my guest too. I was like, I like this pod match thing. We really are matching. Like,
Right? Oh my gosh. Like, thanks,
yeah.
universe. That's so
No,
crazy.
for real. Right. So, okay. And then the second one that I'm on is Wellbutrin. That's the other one that I'm on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you have any appetite issues with Lamictal?
With the Migdal, more like the Wellbutrin. I was warned about the Wellbutrin
Oh,
part. But
okay.
yeah, I mean, I was on the Migdal like on and off since like 2029, sorry, like 2019,
Okay.
2018 around there. So like on and off kind of thing. More for
Mhm.
like one personal reason, second insurance issues. But yeah, I'm on it. I've been on it consecutively since like last, actually no, almost 2 years now.
Okay.
The psychiatrist that I had was like kept upping my dose constantly and put me at like, I think I was like at the highest at one point and I had like the biggest headaches. So that's
Oh,
like the personal thing is like I felt like it was just giving me headaches and not doing anything. But now I'm on it on a lower dosage and it's like it doesn't give me the headaches. So I think that psychiatrist was just like upping me so fast that my brain is
mhm.
just like, what is going on? So it's
Right.
very interesting. I feel like I can go on a whole different conversation about like psychiatrists and such because
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I feel like some just like give you meds and don't look, or some are just like, okay, let me actually figure this out so you're
Right.
safe. Because you
Right.
really can't mess with that. It's your brain and your brain is your biggest asset. So I
Yeah.
truly believe in. Okay, next up, I want to talk about EMDR.
Okay.
Yes, I want to educate my audience on that. I never had that topic. I talk about CPTSD in like a whole other episode. But
Yeah.
yeah, can you walk through like how EMDR works and like,
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was, I want to say not too long after COVID when I did it. So I did it virtually.
mhm,
And what they did was they had me like relive a certain traumatic situation and talk about it, walk through everything as I
mhm.
was refeeling it. So I had to
Okay.
close my eyes and I had to kind of like have the sights, sounds, smells, feelings, like everything. So you're pretty much just like fully re-triggered and thrown kind of into that situation.
Yeah.
So as you're doing it, he had this, I don't know whether there was a pointer, like whatever it was, but he was doing this and my eyes had to follow it. And
Mhm.
then I had to do different movements with my hands. And then, like, for this specific thing, he told a different ending to actually, like, he reframed the narrative. I guess
Yeah.
that's the easiest way I can say it. He kind of
Mhm.
like reframed it for where there was a totally different ending.
Uh-huh.
And it was really cool, but I didn't like it because obviously we don't like being triggered and having to go into those deep dark spaces of
Yeah.
emotional pain and shock and all of that.
Mhm.
But it was very helpful.
So how did you feel like right after it?
Oh,
Like
man.
relieved?
There was like a sense of relief, and it wasn't just a one time thing. After we did like the original, like I went through my what actually happened, and then he went through, the new narrative,
Mhm.
reframing the thoughts a few times after we did a few sessions. And so then it started to feel better. Like then when you thought about the memory, you started to not think about like what actually happened or the real feelings, like the good feelings started to come up.
That's really awesome because,
Yeah.
like as human beings, the negative is always like the default,
Yes.
which is something I want to let me say, like tell you something about like the humans and negative, like right after I want to let you know what I learned from a podcast. But yeah, so humans are at default to just be negative. So,
Yeah.
having to go through EMDR to go through your trauma and like I'm not gonna say erase it, but pretty much like as you were saying, reframing it. So let's say I'm trying to
Mhm.
I guess a lot of people may ask, how can you reframe a traumatic event? Like, I mean, I don't know, of course, what you went through, but some people can go through like rape or like being abused, like
Mhm.
hit, like physical. So, what's like your opinion? Like, how can you reframe those types of severe traumatic events? Like, I'm really curious if you know if you want to feel comfortable answering that.
Yeah, so I think for me, understood that like how the reframing worked,
Hmm.
and that is pretty much so your body doesn't get activated with the fight or flight every time
Hmm.
you have that memory, or so you
Yeah.
don't keep reliving it. So I understood that. I don't know, that's kind of a hard question. That's really because one of the things that I did was very, very traumatic. It was actually an abuse situation that I
Hmm.
had to do. But I think in the reframing,
Hmm.
you start to just see it differently. And
Yeah.
like, it just doesn't feel, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's just hard to answer.
You know what I think for like as an example, let's say rape, right? When women are
Mhm.
being raped, they feel powerless. They feel that they feel violated and such. So it's like reframing it in a
Yes.
way where it's like knowing first it's not your fault. That's one thing.
Right.
And then
Right.
second, it's like I mean, you can't really turn that into a positive situation because that's overall just crappy. But also
Right.
actually, yeah, hear me out here, right? You can I'm trying to word this in a way where I'm not going to be controversial and get canceled.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like what the way I think about things. Let's say, okay, I'm going to make it a little bit lighter topic than rape. So
Okay.
let's say, I grew up with severe bullying, like severe bullying and such. And now, at that time, I wondered, I'm like, why are people bullying me so much? Like, what's wrong with me? Then I go, I feel worthless. I feel
Mhm.
like I'm the problem, right? But now, as an adult, and I have more education on mental health, I'm like, that bullying was struggling. Like, of course, it's no excuse for treating people badly, but in a way, it's kind of like knowing, like, coming to peace to know it's not you, and you kind of feel for them, like that kind of, I wonder what they were going through at home, right? So,
Right. Right. Right.
right. So that's like the example I'm going to give, not like rape, because I'm not going to try to feel bad for this rapist.
Yeah. Oh, God.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. 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 So
Absolutely
when
not.
Oh my gosh. So when you said that, when you said, talking about the reframing, what came to me is in my specific situation, when they kind of reframed it, it gave me empowerment. It
Yes, that's
took
the
me
word.
from being a victim to being a survivor, and it
Yes.
changing the ending of what happened to me gave
Yes.
it an empowering ending and an empowering memory and empowering feelings for me.
Hmm.
And so that's how like they specifically did it. They took me from a victim to a survivor, and when I
Oh.
would think of it, I would feel empowerment
You know,
instead of the actual tragedy that would just like consume me.
yes, that's what I was looking for. I had so many thoughts in my head. I was like, okay, how can we
Sorry, I
reframe
had to
this?
think of that.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. We're just having conversation. I was just like trying to no, yeah, I was trying to find the word for it. That's why I was like, okay, this is a touchy chop not topic. Oh my
Yes.
god. Touchy topic. But then again, you think I'll be used to this by now. But I've been like not canceled before, but like some people take things I say the wrong way. But that's all
Yeah,
about being brave and having these conversations while trying your best to be sensitive, you know?
absolutely. Right.
But yeah, I was trying to. That's why I went from like the rape thing to bullying. That's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but what you were saying, like going from being a victim to a survivor, and I think that totally makes sense, and
Yeah.
and that can be like a good practice for just anything,
Oh,
that
absolutely.
you're going through in your life. It's like, it literally sucks what you happened. You didn't deserve it, but also it's like you can kind of see how you go forward with it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like doing
Yeah.
like a thinking of another lighter, staying away from rapes, like I said, is very, very touchy. So let me go to alcohol and such,
Okay.
which I mean that's of course sensitive too. But my example is, let's say you grew up in a household where you had parents that are alcoholics and such. And then there's two brothers. One can choose to. I feel like you're a good example where you're putting like all your trauma and you're doing amazing things in this world right now. And then there's unfortunately could be another person that will go down, be an alcoholic, and then be abusive and put down, in a,
Right.
you know what I mean, like generational trauma.
Yes.
So yeah, yeah. So it would be so great if like people make the choice to do what you're doing, so we can have less of, like continuing that cycle and such.
Right.
But it's obviously easier said than done. You need to have people who want to do better. So that's kind of like the most challenging thing. But I think another thing that makes it more likely for people to make that choice is what we're
Mhm.
doing right now, is
Absolutely.
influencing, you know
Yes.
it's influencing. And this is a little bit slightly off topic again, but there's like a lot of people look at influencers and they're like, influencers is not a real job. And you know how people think about them? I don't consider myself an influencer, but we are influencing you and I right now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's not, let me influence you to buy this piece of makeup or anything like that. It's like,
Right.
let me influence you to take care of yourself, and
Yes.
recover and such.
Yes.
What I want to jump in right now is I love talking about the topic of CPTSD. And the
Okay.
reason I like talking about it is because it's not spoken about as much currently. Right now, when people think of CPTSD, they think it's PTSD, and not
Okay.
people have not heard of CPTSD. First off, I was like diagnosed with it like last year, and I'm like, what is CPTSD? So you said you were diagnosed with it. What do you believe like manifested to turn into that CPTSD? I'm assuming it's probably from your childhood, or do you have like any particular stories you like to share?
Yeah. So pretty much for me, it was just repeated traumas
Hmm.
that you grow up and you don't even realize are like traumas until they start to
Yeah.
affect you later. Actually, when I sustained like PTSD in my nursing job, like it started with one case and then I would just like relive like all of these crazy cases. But specifically, and when I had pretty much gotten diagnosed, one thing from my childhood triggered it. And
Mhm.
so it took like years to figure this out. Like in therapy and why this specific thing did that. And there had to be like a, childhood issue. And I'm trying to see how I want to word this to be comfortable with, like my family members. But anyway, okay, so I'll just go. So when I was younger, there was a person in my family that kind of strayed and came back and had a baby. And then I was younger, and we kind of celebrated, like, oh, she's having a baby, but then she decided to give that baby up for adoption. And so, as like a 10-year-old, I grieved that as like a death.
Mm.
And I didn't know it ever affected me until I became an adult and I started having nightmares of a baby that was lost in a trauma case. And I was kind of re experiencing the loss of that baby from my childhood. And so that's kind of when I was diagnosed.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
With something that you don't even realize, like, and I always love to mention
Right.
like how important your development years are,
Yes.
and this also just like teaching parents,
Mm.
but how important it is like with parenting, and trying to at least like during the development years of being a child to try to, I mean, it's life's not perfect. There's always going to
Right.
be some type of trauma, but trying the best to minimize that,
Right.
and just being like open about it with children. It's like now, even though you've been through, obviously clearly hell, you've made something out of it where you are helping others, educating others. And so now I want to go into, now that we learned a little bit more about you, I want to go into what you are currently doing at this moment. Let's talk about your nonprofit. So, what made you decide to start it?
Wow, that's a great question. So when I got clean from my addiction, it was during COVID and nothing was open. They were just transitioning from like in people meetings to online, and like it wasn't ready. And so I was scrolling online and I found like a kind of like a personal development group
Mhm.
and joined it. In this group, I is where I started like my actual like recovery journey. And I got my, hopes and dreams again. And it just sparked like this light inside of me, just sparked to want to help other people. And I gave the idea of wanting to, fund a nonprofit, and everyone in this group supported me, and they became volunteers. They became directors of the board, my co-founders. And so it was just like beautiful because I had just met these people like on virtually, but we became like a family, and was not too far after I had just got clean and started recovery for the trauma and for addiction. And so all of my friends are pretty much nurses. And so I felt this helplessness because I didn't have the capacity to just go work and help them.
Mhm.
So I needed to help in some way. And so after founding the nonprofit, what we did is I think we ended up doing 10, and we lit up hospitals with acts of kindness, and we delivered like all kinds of amazing stuff to the staff, and we put these cards in there to reach out if anybody needed support for mental health or for addiction or whatever. And that's kind of how the charity was founded, just because I needed an outlet to help. I felt helpless. I couldn't help my nurses. My nurse, I'm just a nurse at heart. So to have this, pandemic going on and me not being able to go be a nurse, I had to find a way to help. So that's what I did, and we started doing that, and then the paperwork came in and the nonprofit was founded. And so it's kind of just went from there.
It's awesome. So, I have like that feeling as well, like you just have the urge to help people. Like
Yeah.
I feel like everybody here on this planet has a
Mhm.
purpose. And
Yes.
we have like healing vibes.
Oh, we do.
Yeah, like I've been told that apparently I give off healing vibes. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it, but I have this urge to help myself. Hence, when
Mhm.
I'm create what I created with this brand, I actually was like almost turned it into a nonprofit, but then like that's a whole other story. It was just a lot on my plate. But
Yeah.
okay, so you said you started out with like the little cards, for you want to spread kindness, and then people who, kind of need that little spark to make them feel, you know,
Yeah.
seen and such.
Yeah.
So it started out like that. So what's currently what your nonprofit is doing right now?
Yeah. So actually we learned from those that
Hmm.
people actually started reaching out. Just from our acts
Yeah.
of kindness, people started reaching out for help. Like,
Uh-huh.
I'm struggling with this. And then we didn't even have website at the time. We didn't have anything. So we were giving our personal information to help people.
Hmm.
And so they were, reaching out to us on Facebook, reaching out to us on different messengers. And then we just started like giving them resources, go here. And that's kind of like it just developed into what it is today. So currently, we are doing awareness. So we have an awareness campaign, and it's
Hmm.
called the hashtag Light It Up Project.
Hmm.
And for our awareness items, we have these shirts, and then on the back it says hashtag Light It Up. I don't know if you can see it, but
On your website too.
okay.
Yeah, I think you also have photos of it as well in your
Oh, yeah,
profile.
yeah. And then the wristbands. And so these items, it's visible support for anyone suffering with mental health or addiction. And it's a reminder that they're not alone because we're all connected through these bands. It's a reminder to speak up for help and a
Mhm.
reminder of hope. And it says, hope, no one fights alone, hashtag light it up. So that's our
Yeah.
awareness campaign. For advocacy, we speak in schools and in communities and outreach. We do the acts of kindness, and
Mhm.
we leave that little resource card. People reach out. Yeah.
I would just love to just talk to in different schools and kind of like do a tour in a way. Oh, it's just such
Yes.
a dream. So, like,
Oh
that's
my gosh,
something.
it's funny that you said that because it's been my dream to do the whole hashtag Lighted Up School tour,
Oh
and
my
it's
God.
right, but we haven't really like launched it yet. It's challenging when you're a newer nonprofit to get
Yeah.
grants, or like it's really hard. So we're just pretty much like going to start fundraising and reaching out for resources to be able to take, our bands and speakers into schools on this school tour. So it's great. It's funny that you said that.
So yeah, so you said that you're planning on doing a tour like that, which is so cool. I hope you come to Florida. That would be nice. So is it
Yes,
gonna
that'd be
be
awesome.
so is it gonna be like you and volunteers? Like do you have like a partner that's like a co-founder with you?
So I actually have two co-founders, and then we
Oh
have a
yes,
board.
yes.
Yeah, but actually I went to speaking academy to become a speaker, and I made
Ooh.
connections with amazing people, and we have three actually that are partners with our nonprofit. And so we have four or five of us that are professional speakers. So we kind of have a speaking team. It's kind of like we're still building and putting it all together, but it's been put out into the universe, and just when our resources come, we're going.
That's awesome. I've never even heard of Speakers Academy. I think I'm gonna look into that because
Oh, yeah,
I
they're
have a lot to say, but I need to build my
everywhere.
skills on like my speaking, especially since I've like lost my train of thought multiple times. I had like a moment, but I definitely want to eventually do like a live speaking. And I have to really learn how to not have my uhs and my ums and my likes and my huh.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But let me look into that later. Thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Let's talk about your humanitarian award. Can we chat about that?
Oh,
Tell me everything.
I got so excited. I just looked at it on my wall.
Yeah. Ah. Okay.
So the Lighted Up project has, at that time, we had confirmed saved two lives and impacted a lot of people to reach out for resources and help. So we say that we unmute voices globally.
Mm-hmm.
And so our campaign has helped people, encouraged people to reach out, to speak up. And at that time, we had two confirmed lives saved. And I received this award in the coaching group that I had started when I first began. And they watched my whole life transformation journey. They watched like the building of the nonprofit, which we're still building. But I had never received anything positive in so many years. In fact, like I ended up going to jail. I received like all these legal things, and like everything was just horrible, horrible. And so restarting, recreating my life to receive that award was I can't even explain what that meant to me. Like it was just this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, something positive came out of, you know, my darkness. So it's on my wall, and it was just a huge honor.
Yeah. And the fact that you said like so far everything that I've learned from you today and we spoke about, and then you just mentioned how you were in jail and such, because that's in the way like not in the way is like rock bottom, and then you went from like
Oh
rock
yes.
bottom to doing so well and to helping others. And like I personally believe
Yes.
everything happens for a reason. Of course, I never want to say like good you went through this because you're doing this. Like no, like that's not cool, obviously. But
Right.
it's always the people that literally go through hell are the ones that are the healers and the ones that are helping, others and such. And I love bringing people like you onto this podcast because I was just gonna say like you are a sign of hope as you're wearing on your shirt right now. And there's so many people who go through hell and they think like there's no way out. They think
Yes.
like this is how it's supposed to be, and then they also naturally play. I'm gonna say play victim. That's kind of mean to say that, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying. Where it's like, you don't have to be a victim. There's so much more that you can do to get yourself from rock bottom to have all of these amazing blessings in your
Yes.
life. And I
Yes.
always try to encourage people that. And, it's always the hardest step is to ask for help or to want
Yes,
to change.
it really is.
That is the hardest thing. And I just like, I feel for like all these people, like I see comments, I just see things, obviously it's the internet. You see what people are talking about and such.
Oh,
And just
yeah.
also just people that like I know that are in like bad situations. And I'm that kind of person where I have this urge to help people. Urge.
Mm,
Even if they don't ask for it. So sometimes I have like advice that they don't ask for. It's kind of like I have to like I try my best to not give advice when it's like absolutely like not wanted, because some people get really mad at me when I
right,
do that. I actually, people get really angry with me when I give advice, and it's like it can be overwhelming to people. So if I see someone struggling and I can give some good advice, it's like I have to remember, like, if they're not asking and I'm just giving it to them, sometimes they can see it as like an insult. So that I've been like at
right,
least working on that, which is
right.
kind of like upsetting. It's like and then there's people out there like, actually I have an example for you that actually happened to me 2 days ago or 3 days ago. There's this woman on TikTok who has 12 kids. She got six taken away from her because her roof is falling apart. She has lead and everything and such.
Oh,
So a lot of people are see her as a horrible mother, and such, because she has also a lot of health issues. So it's hard for her to have a regular job and such. She does make money off like TikTok and YouTube, but it's not really a
okay,
month to support 12 kids. So yeah, anyway, she's right now she's at rock bottom. She's going through hell. I think in my head, because she has a 500,000 followers. And also, side note, I'm a social media manager full time. So this is like my brain with marketing kind of came out. And I was
okay.
thinking, okay, she has a 500,000 followers. Why doesn't she try to get brand deals? She can make some good
Mhm.
money, and because she needs to get her roof fixed, which is something
Right,
super, yeah, or she's going to lose her house. So she's in a lot of very severe things in her life. They said, why don't you do TikTok shop? Like brands will send you free stuff, and if you review it, you can get commission. That's a source of income. And then second, like
right.
brand deals and such. Like I don't think she's really knowledgeable or aware, like that world. And so like I get that, just because, like, to be honest with you, if I was a brand, I wouldn't want her to represent me either, just because the way that she talks, just the way that she
Okay,
presents herself, it's the way that she presents herself.
right.
Like something she there's a way of storytelling and talking on the internet, having the least amount of hate, or in reality it matters. For in that case, if you're looking for money and monetization and brands and such, you kind of do have to care how you present yourself on the internet. That's unfortunately just the reality of how business works and
Right,
marketing. But
right.
her story is definitely, she's gained a following, so clearly
Mhm.
people are interested. And she does have a story that's little like not the average. So people are curious, people are following. Some actually are like concerned, and some people just like to see her downfall, and that's just unfortunate.
Right.
But anyway, so what I was saying is like, so when people were saying like, oh, she's not going to get brand deals because of this, which I understood why they said that. And I said,
Mhm.
well, really, she just has to go do a very big rebranding. And then one person said, you can't rebrand BS. And I saw that, and I'm like, in my head, I was kind of like, first I'm like, but then I was like, you know what? People don't have my knowledge on marketing and branding and such. So I, instead of typing, because you can only do so many characters, I did like a reaction video where I responded to the comment, and I just explained like, hey, like, I get where you're coming from, and I agree that she's not presenting herself correctly, and brands are not going to want to pay her and work with her. But there's possibility of going from like better speaking skills and better storytelling skills, because clearly, if
Mhm.
you watch this girl's videos, you'll get it. So it's
Mhm.
like I see potential in her. And also she has news people writing about her, so that's actually how I found out about her. I saw a headline, and of course,
Oh,
naturally, it sparked my curiosity when it said like
right.
mother of 12 begging for money, or so
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
a human, so I clicked on it and I was curious. And then I went to her
Right.
TikTok and everything. But I was thinking of like, I think the best thing for her to really restructure everything is like being on a podcast, because one, someone leads the conversation. So it may, and has editing to make
Yeah.
sure you don't say things to piss off the public. And so
Right.
it's like the podcast person is most likely not going to make you look bad, like how news sources do
Right.
that. So anyway, so I
Right.
was saying that, and then this person was getting real nasty with me. She was like, "You're just clout chasing right now." And I'm like, first, I'm like, for what? I'm literally just giving this girl advice. And then
Right.
yeah, so she was basically saying I was clout chasing. I'm like, yeah, that's totally what I'm doing right now. Actually help somebody, and then people, their reactions were
Mhm.
just not nice. Anyway, I blocked that person. Okay. This is a pretty like an open answer here. So for our listeners who
Okay.
may be in the thick of their own struggles, what message of hope would you like to leave with them today?
So I usually go with what I think I would have wanted to hear, what would have helped me when I was just like in the thick of it. I felt very alone and I felt afraid. I was afraid to reach out to talk to anybody. I was afraid to reach out for help and I had no freaking hope. I had not even a glimmer of hope. So if you're out there, you're listening, you can hear my voice. I just want to let you know that you are not alone. There are so many people that love you and that need you to push through. And I want to let you know that there is hope, even if it looks like there isn't. There is. And inside of you, there is a little light. There is a little light of strength. You may not see it, you may not feel it, but I need you to believe it because it was inside of me and it literally just brought me through. And that little light of strength and that little light of hope is inside of you. You have it, it's there. You may
That. No, I love that piece of advice. The saying like there is hope inside of you. You just got to bring that out.
Yes.
Which when you were saying that, it made me think of this animation that I saw
Okay.
on Instagram, and it shows that like when you're a child, you have all of this like light in you, right?
Yeah.
But then it's like you go through life and it brings you
Mhm.
down and you start having darkness inside of you. And it's
Yes.
it's pretty much saying that's like you still have it in you. It's just
Right.
unfortunately life kind of kicked you in the butt, but it's finding that hope and bringing that back out so you can feel like it's really like healing your inner child.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it really is. And
I
so,
feel
yeah, so if you're, you can hear my voice and you're struggling, I just want you to know that you can rise from your situation. Remember who you are. Remember that you were put here on earth. You have a purpose, you have a reason. You are amazing. Keep
I
believing
love
it.
that. One thing I want to ask you, have you been to Disney World?
I have, like when I was a kid.
Okay, so it hasn't been recent. So there's the fireworks show.
Okay.
It's Happily Ever After. And every time I go to that, I cry because there's a part where it says,
Oh.
like, remember who you are. Because I used to work for Disney for like 5 years, right? And I went in there so excited, so happy, feeling like a child. But then naturally over time, when guests mistreat you and are hard, you know what I mean? Like, you go through things, right? I was
Yeah.
losing my will to, first, I was losing my will to live because that was a really dark time in my
Mm.
life. And then I was losing, like, I really wanted to quit, but naturally you have to pay bills. So it's not just simple to like, okay, bye.
Oh.
So when I was going through this, I was thought in my head, I'm like, I started working for this company in 2016 and it was the greatest opportunity. And I'm very grateful because a lot of people want to work for Disney. A lot of people have a
Mhm.
dream for working for that company. And I got in through the college program. So there's like, they say that like 30,000 people apply for the program and they only accept like less than 5,000. So when they gave those
Oh.
numbers, I felt really special. I felt like, wow, like how great is that I got into one of the most competitive programs and then I did the program and it was the happiest time of my life. I literally was like, oh,
Aw.
where's depression? It went away. Like it's
Yeah.
it's it's crazy. So naturally that's why I moved to Florida. And then when I was going through those, like at the fifth or fourth or fifth year, I was losing that magic. Like the magic was starting to
Aw.
like leave. And it had nothing
Right.
to do with the company, it had everything to do with the guest. because they just,
Oh,
I can go on and on with the way I was treated. It's people, I would tell some people what I went through and they're like, "Really? People were that mean?" I'm like, "Yes, I've seen it all."
wow.
You know, like when you work for a huge company like that who are coming to
Yeah,
visit, you hear from all walks of life. And there's some really
right.
mean people out there. Yeah.
Oh,
I've had a lot of mental breakdowns. I had to like go on medication for the anxiety. Yeah, it was a lot. I stopped at one point. I was getting like not showing up for work and being late, and I had to go on FMLA, and it was just, yeah, it was crazy. So,
God.
um, I when I was going through that, I was like, you know what? I need to go to Magic Kingdom. I need to go and watch the fireworks show because I need to remember why I'm here. I need to
Yes.
remember what the feeling I had when I started working for this company. So I went, I literally after work, I just drove to Magic Kingdom and I watched the show. And as I finished watching Happily Ever After, it was so relieving and I did like cry so much because it's
Oh.
just like, you have to see it. You have to see it. Even if you can't go to the parks, just go on like YouTube and you can watch the whole show. And then it's also
Oh,
moments,
okay.
yeah, it's also moments where you just wanna, you feel stuck in life and you feel you're stuck in your comfort zone. You just wanna do more in your life. That part
Right.
where it goes like, you can fly. And it's like what it's
Oh,
saying, it literally means like you can do whatever you just had to get out of your comfort zone. And then it's like, remember who you are. It's like if you watch this, it
yeah.
all makes sense of like an actual bigger picture of advice in the real world.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, recommend watching it. You'll
Oh.
cry. I promise you that. You will cry.
I'm always good for a good.
Yeah, and it's like even though it's like having music from like all different Disney movies and such, you
Mhm.
everybody has a story. So when you're
Yes.
watching it, you think of your story.
Aw,
Yeah, I'm gonna start crying
I
now.
love that. I'm so sensitive. I'm like, aw.
Yeah, I've been crying a lot lately. Like I was watching a show yesterday and I was just almost
Mhm.
bawling my eyes even though I know it's a show. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I do appreciate you coming on here. And I think you gave us a lot of valuable advice and gave hope, to my listeners. So I
Thank
just want to thank you
you.
for that.
You're so welcome. Thank you for the opportunity to share my story and connect with your listeners.
Yes. Absolutely. And for all listeners who are listening, I hope you guys have a great day and stay tuned for next week's episode. Stop.